Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I'm gonna ask you your first question for the interview.
Okay.
Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, well, my name's Aiden Garner, as you already know. I'm 17. I originally grew up in Cumming, Georgia, and I moved down to Milton about 6 years ago when I started 6th grade. I'm now a senior in high school, and I'm looking forward to going to college at Kennesaw, North Georgia, Augusta University, or maybe even Georgia Tech. I'm looking to get my mechanical degree, and that would require a master's degree as well as a bachelor's degree.
What about those schools interest you to apply with that major?
A lot of those schools have very good mechanical classes, and they are very strong suited for my needs. Growing up, I've always been mechanically inclined, and I've always been into cars, skateboards, mountain bikes, and dirt bikes. I actually service a lot of my own mechanical devices myself, as well as my cars. So I can do oil changes, tire rotations, in-cabin air filter changes, and oil changes for my lawnmower.
What inspired you, or how do you learn to do all these?
Growing up, my dad was always at work. I come from a wealthy family, but it comes with its prices. I never really had my dad around to help me figure out those problems, so I learned how to take things apart and put them together myself. And over time, practice just made perfect, and I learned how to think outside the box and how to imagine 3D objects, and I taught myself how to take them apart and put them back together in my head, and I just went from there. I also believe in putting other people first. I try and put myself in other people's shoes, and I like to imagine their point of view. I never assume things during arguments. I always like to hear the point of view from each person's side before I make the judgment for myself. I also like to live by the golden rule. I treat others the way that they want to be treated in hopes that they can one day return the favor. I'm also very good with teamwork and as well as solo work. I've been in countless situations where I've had to do both, and I've played important roles such as being the leader for teamwork, and in groups of partners I've also taken the role of keeping everybody on track and making sure that the project gets done in the end. I also have 3 jobs. I do car washing on the side, I have a little landscaping business in my neighborhood, I mow about 8 lawns, and I also work at a golf course, and I'm a cart attendant, and I load and grab people's bags and set up the range and do whatever they might need. So that's a little bit about me, so yeah.
What makes you the best fit to become an automotive mechanic?
I believe I make the best fit for this job because I love working with my hands. I've always been into mechanics since I was a little child, and I love cars. The reason I say that is because me and my dad used to always go to car shows when we were younger, and we would find the coolest cars to look at. I love teaching other people about their machines, like their bicycles, their dirt bikes, and their cars, for example. I love helping people. I know I've been in situations before where I wish I could have had someone to lean on in those situations and ask advice for. And because of that, I look forward to one day hopefully returning the favor and being able to help people with their cars.
How are you going to handle if a customer has a problem with your service or is having a question?
I would first try and put myself in their shoes and see the point that they're coming from and understand them, and be as reasonable as possible and try and cut them a deal, maybe give them a discount of some sort. And if it's even possible, hopefully they can still leave a good review and come back as a future customer. And if not, then I would definitely report them to see the manager, and I would leave it to them and I could leave it up to the manager.
What about your skill set is unique to anyone else applying?
My skill set is very unique because I come from a background of always doing things myself. I never had someone to teach me, so I've learned how to think outside the box. I know how to imagine things in my head, and I can understand how to take things apart and put them back together. Over the years, I've taken many things apart. I do service on my cars, my dirt bikes, my lawnmowers, and even smaller engines like my weed whackers and edgers and little household appliances. I build RC cars for people as a side hobby. I'm really good with my hands, and I love doing small, precise details. I also believe that if you do something first time, you should do it right so you don't have to do it again. And I like to put my most 100% effort into everything I do. And that's why I believe I'd make the best candidate for this job.
Awesome. Hi, and what is your greatest strength?
Some of my greatest strengths are I always try and be as positive as possible. In difficult situations, I always try and keep my cool and keep my calm, and I try and not let everything around me overwhelm me at times. My positivity also helps me in difficult situations. I try and keep my head up and keep my mind clear at the time. I know everything around me can get a little hectic sometimes. I'm pretty sure we've all been there before. So I always try and keep a clear thought and a clear mindset, and I always try and imagine the best possible outcome rather than freaking out and stalling by not knowing how to react or react in a way that could negatively affect me or my teammates. I have a lot of determination. I do not like to give up very easily. No matter how stressful a situation can get, I can always see it through to the end, and I like to push myself as hard as I can, no matter the consequences.
Can you give me an example on how you pushed yourself through a hard, stressful event?
Yes, building my project car with my dad, I had to rebuild the engine block, and in order to do that, we had to take apart over 530 bolts total, so that was a good 1/2 of the engine that we had to take apart. But we labeled every single bolt, and we recorded us taking apart the engine, so that way we can watch it in reverse and figure out how to put it together correctly. And doing that, it took us over a week, but we both kept a clear mind and we did not stress, because we knew that if we stressed over it, it would not get us anywhere. And that was how we did it. I can also put myself in other people's shoes. I always like seeing things from different points of views. In arguments, I never take a side instantly, depending on who I hear from first. I always like to hear each side of the story before I make a judgment myself. I also like putting other people first. It's a trait of mine, but I always have been told where we always treat each other with the utmost respect. So I've taken that on in my own life lessons and do that for everybody else. Okay.
Hi, and what is your greatest weakness?
One of my greatest weaknesses is caring about what other people think. It has always been a struggle for me ever since I was a little kid. I used to have little tics and twitches here and there in elementary school, and I would always get bullied for making noises out loud or clearing my throat or coughing, for example. In middle school, I would also get pointed out for wearing certain types of clothes or
How do you overcome being bullied? What did you do to overcome that?
One of my biggest ways that I've learned to overcome these negative situations is I just have learned to stop caring about all the drama that goes on around me and to just be myself and to accept the real friends that will love you for who you are and will accept the person that you can be around them, and you can truly be yourself and not have to worry about being judged for that.
How can this trait be helpful in an automotive mechanic career?
I know going into this career, it will probably not be an easy task, and I know I will not be able to satisfy every customer or person that I run into, and I will try my best no matter how the situation goes. But at the end of the day, I still will give my best effort, and I hope that I can satisfy that person and hope that they can come back and leave a good review for your company.
Thank you. Hi, and why did you want to become an automotive mechanic?
I have always been into cars ever since I was a little kid. Me and my dad always were super close to each other, and we would always go to car shows and car meets, and we would always look at all the Corvettes and McLarens and GTRs and all the cool Miatas that they would have. And ever since then, that passion has kind of grown on me, and I've learned how to do my own body work. I've learned how to paint things. I've learned how to do my own maintenance on my cars, and many other things that I could go on for. I've wanted to become a mechanic because I've always been mechanically inclined. I've learned how to take things apart and put them back together ever since I was a little kid, and I believe that I can use those skills to benefit your company and go.
What initially drawn you to be an automotive mechanic? There's other kinds of mechanical jobs. Why do you choose automotive?
The reason why I wanted to do automotive mechanics is because it leaves me with a few choices, so I don't have to do one particular type of job every single day. I can switch between doing maintenance, which is changing oil filters, changing the oil itself, changing air filters and in-cabin air filters, changing the tires, tire rotations, all that stuff. Or I could do aftermarket upgrades, so I could take off the mufflers and exhaust systems on cars and upgrade them, or switch out the rims and tires with nicer, beefier ones. I could do engine upgrades, like getting upgraded air intakes or upgrading the fuel injectors or spark plugs. So I believe that I could use those skills and the different job opportunities each day to better help me understand which career specifically I want to go into if I did end up specializing in one of those 3 career paths.
How do you perform changing the oil? How do you do that?
So what we do is we originally drive the car up onto the tracks and we lift it up off the ground. Unfortunately, we do not have the time to let the engine cool down, so we wear very thick gloves that are temperature proof so that they do not burn our hands. And I will have one guy performing the oil change below the car. And what he does is he actually takes the drain plug out of the bottom of the engine. That way all the oil can drain out. And then one guy above the engine working in the actual bay itself will be taking the oil cap off, and he will be checking the levels and flushing the old oil out with some new oil as well. After that, we will proceed to fill the engine up completely with oil, checking the oil levels obviously so that you can have the correct amount and not too much or too little. And after that, we will put the oil cap back on, have the customer start their engine, and then we will proceed to let it run for a minute or two and mix all the new oil together. And that way, once we give it one final checkup, we can double check and make sure that the oil is at the proper level. And then after that, we will proceed to do just a standard tire pressure check, make sure all the tires are not low or overinflated in any spots. We will check and make sure that their blinkers and brake lights and headlights are also working all in the correct order. And we will also make sure that their horn and airbag systems work. And after that, that's really it for just a basic oil change.
How often do you think a regular car driver should bring in their car for a checkup? And what do you think the most common thing breaks in the car?
So depending on how often you drive your car, definitely plays a big role in deciding how often you should come in to get a regular checkup. But say you have a car sitting for 6 months to a year, you should definitely bring it in for a checkup so we can air up the tires, change the oil, make sure nothing is rusting inside of the engine or inside of the interior of the car, like the carpets are molding or there's somehow insects have somehow found a way to get inside of the car and make a little nest, like rodents or mice or any of that sort of unwanted creatures. Hold on. If you drive a lot, you should definitely get your oil changed or come into the shop after 5,000 miles or so, depending on if you get synthetic or non-synthetic. Definitely plays a big role.
What's the difference between synthetic and non-synthetic oil?
The difference between synthetic and non-synthetic is all natural, and that comes from a much cleaner blend of oils. But the only downside to that is you can only go 3,000 to 5,000 miles. Rather, with synthetic oil, you can go up to 7,000 to 8,000 miles without an oil change. That is if your car does not burn oil. However, unfortunately, my car does, so I have to put a quart or so in it every so often. Yeah, that's
Thank you.